Good morning, guys. We're back. We're back with Ciphernoon. So we're going to be, I'm ready to jump right into it, obviously. But the reason is because I'm so tired this morning. So it's even more of a reason to just jump right into it. So last time we just went over the quick Welcome to Codecademy tutorial. We're going to start the Learn HTML today. So we're going to see how far we get. So you can see I have my Codecademy up. And if you're interested in learning coding and programming and you've never done anything before, I mean, if you're interested in programming, Python is a good way to start, but if you're interested in web development, HTML is a good place to start. I always start with HTML when I do refreshers, just because HTML was the first language that I learned. I think I was 11 when I taught myself HTML so that I could build Sailor Moon fan sites, which is pretty stellar. It's pretty sure. But a cool thing about it though was that actually these fan sites were actually like games. Like I used tables to replicate the ROMs, so I'd pull like the items, the images. And so you could and use pop-up and things so you could explore and click things. I should have always known that I really wanted to do games. Anyways, speaking of games, let's get started with HTML because we got a lot of work to do. And we're going to take it bit by bit every day. Okay, so what is HTML? Welcome to the world of code. Last year, millions of learners from our community started with HTML. Why? HTML is the skeleton of all web pages. It's often the first language learned by marketers and designers and is core to front-end development work. If this is your first time touching code, we're excited for what you're about to create. They're really jovial. I like that. So what exactly is HTML? HTML provides structure to content appearing on a website, such as images, text, or video. Right-click on any page on the internet, choose Inspect, and you'll see HTML in a panel of your screen. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. A markup language is a computer language that defines the structure and presentation of raw text. In HTML, the computer can interpret raw text that is wrapped in HTML elements. Hypertext is text displayed on a screen or on a computer or a device that provides access to other text through links, also known as hyperlinks. You probably clicked on a couple of hyperlinks on your way to this Codecademy course. Learning HTML is the first step in creating websites, but even a bit of knowledge can help you inject code snippets into newsletter, blog, or website templates. As you continue learning, you can layer HTML with CSS and JavaScript to create visually compelling and dynamic websites. But for now, we're just going to focus on how to add and modify basic content on a page like text, images, and videos. Don't worry if the websites look ugly, we're just getting started. Okay, so in the code editor to the right, type your name in between H1 and end H1 and press run. So H1 and H1. Perfect, so we got it right, sending us to the next one, blazing this morning. HTML anatomy. HTML is composed of elements. These elements structure the web page and define its content. Let's take a look at how they're written. The diagram to the right displays an HTML paragraph element. As we can see, the paragraph element is made up of one opening tag, P, the content hello world text, and the closing tag, NP, or, \P, whatever. A tag and the content between it is called an HTML element. So this whole thing is the element. The tag, the content, and closing tag. These are all the HTML element. There are many tags that we can use to organize and display text and other types of content, like images. Let's quickly review each part of the element pictured. So the HTML element, or simply element, a unit of content in an HTML document formed by HTML tags and other media it contains. So that's just all this. This whole thing is the HTML element. The HTML tag is the element name surrounded by an opening and closing angle bracket. So this is the opening tag and the closing tag. So together these are the HTML tag, these two right here. Opening tag, the first HTML tag to use an HTML element, used to start an HTML element. I gotta slow down. This is always my problem. I always like to speed ahead. You'll notice this as you work with me on this. I always like to speed ahead and jump ahead, so I always have to pay attention, because if I don't, I'll miss typos or my brain will wander off. It's good practice, good mind discipline. Slow it down. The first HTML tag used to start an HTML element. The tag type is surrounded by opening and closing angle brackets. So what they mean by angle brackets are these little triangles here. Content. The information, text, or other elements contained between the opening and closing tags of an HTML element. That's this one. And the closing tag. The second HTML tag used to end an HTML element. Closing tags have a forward slash. Oh, it's a forward slash. Yeah, forward slash. I always say backslash, but that's the forward one. Directly after the left angle bracket. Right there. Okay, perfect. Study the diagram to the right to learn about the anatomy of HTML syntax. When you're done, continue to the next exercise. Let's go. Let's continue. The body. One of the key HTML elements we use to build a web page is the body element. Only content inside the opening and closing body tags can be displayed to the screen. Here's what the opening and closing body tags look like. Opening and closing. Once the file has a body, many different types of content, including text, images, and buttons, can be added to the body. What's up, Doc? Add a body to your web page using the body element. Okay, so we're going to do open, and then we're going to close it. Perfect. Ooh, next. Add the following code between your opening and closing body tags. Oh, thank the Lord for this great quote. Perfect. HTML structure. HTML is organized as a collection of family tree relationships. As you saw in the last exercise, we placed the p tags within the body tags. When an element is contained inside another element, it is considered the child of that element. The child element is said to be nested inside of the parent element. So here's the parent element, this is the child element nested inside. In the example above, the p element is nested inside the body element. The p element is considered a child of the body element, and the body element is considered the parent. You can also see that we've added 2 spaces of indentation using the spacebar for better readability. That's this right here. Since there can be multiple levels of nesting, this analogy can be extended to grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and beyond. The relationship between elements and their ancestor and descendant element is known as hierarchy. Let's consider a more complex example that uses some new tags. Okay, so in this example, the body element is the parent of the div element. Both the h1 and the p elements are at the same level, so the same indentation, and also the same nesting level. They're both inside the div tag. They are considered siblings and are both grandchildren of the body element. Understanding HTML hierarchy is important because child elements can inherit behavior and styling from the parent element. You'll learn more about web page hierarchy when you start digging into CSS. Okay, so add the paragraph below as a child of the div element. So we're going to copy this, and then we're going to go to this div. Here's the opening and the closing, and we're going to make it a child of it, so we're going to nest it inside there. And then I'm just going to tab it so that visually, if someone was looking at this, they could see, okay, you're the child of that, you're the child of that, and this one's the child of you. Perfect. Headings. Headings in HTML are similar to headings in other types of media. For example, in newspapers, large headings are typically used to capture readers' attention. Other times, headings are used to describe content, like the title of a movie or an educational article. HTML follows a similar pattern. In HTML, there are 6 different headings or heading elements. Headings can be used for a variety of purposes, like titling sections, articles, or other forms of content. The following is a list of the heading elements available in HTML. They are ordered from largest to smallest in size. Use for main headings. All other smaller headings are used in subheadings. That's H1. So it goes H1 to H6. The following example code uses a heading intended to capture the reader's attention. It uses the largest element available, the main heading element. There we go. It uses the H1. Okay. So now that you know how to structure HTML elements, we'll spend the rest of the lesson building an informational website using some of the most common HTML elements. We've put some elements in to get you started, but you'll write the rest of the page on your own. Below the H3 heading that says features, that's this one, add an H2 heading that says habitat. Okay, so we're going to go here, H2 open, habitat, H2 close. Perfect. Okay. Below habitat, add an H3 heading that says countries with large brown bear populations. So H3, and says countries with large brown bear populations, and then we'll close H3. Great. Next. On the next line, add one more H3 heading that says countries with small brown bear populations. Okay, so H3 open, countries with small brown bear populations. Finally, on the next line, add an H2 heading that says media. H2, media, close H2. Perfect. Divs. One of the most popular elements in HTML is the div element. Div is short for division, or a container that divides the page into sections. These sections are very useful for grouping elements in your HTML together. Divs can contain any text or other HTML elements such as links, images, or videos. Remember to always add 2 spaces of indentation when you nest elements inside div for better readability. Got it. Okay, so below the H1 heading that says the brown bear, add an opening div tag. Open. And then place the closing div tag after the H3 element that says features. So we'll go down to features, and we'll add the div tag. And it says remember to use your spacebar to add 2 spaces of indentation when you nest elements. So basically, we're gonna move these things inside. Perfect, so you can see they're nested inside the div. I use the tab bar though, instead of the space bar, 2 spaces of indentation, which essentially right now is like the same thing, but will not necessarily always be the same thing. Especially when you're getting into Python and things like that, you cannot use both spaces and tabs. Like you have to pick a structure, otherwise the code will get confused. Well, the computer will get confused. Okay, so above the H2 element that says habitat, add an opening div tag right here, and close the div tag after the H3 element that says countries with small brown populations, small brown bear populations, and then we're gonna move it over so it's easier to read. Perfect. Okay, so above the H2 element that says media, add an opening div tag. So this will probably be our last little container. And place the closing div tag right above the closing body tag. Great. Closing div tag. Awesome. Okay, next. Attributes. If we want to expand an element's tag, we can do so using an attribute. Attributes are content added to the opening tag of an element and can be used in several different ways, from providing information to changing styling. Attributes are made up of the following two parts: the name of the attribute and the value of the attribute. One commonly used attribute is the ID. We can use the ID attribute to specify different content, such as divs, and it is really helpful when you use an element more than once. IDs have several different purposes in HTML, but for now we'll focus on how they can help us identify content on a page. When we add ID to a div, we place it in the opening tag. So basically we're labeling our divisions. We're labeling what they are, and through this labeling we could apply different styling or different attributes to it. But even if you're just using a bunch of different div tags with no different styling, an ID can help you know where you're at, what you're doing. Okay, so add an ID attribute with the value introduction, so I'm just gonna copy that, to the div tag that's below the brown bear H1 heading. So that's this one. So we're gonna do ID equals introduction. Perfect. Okay, so you can see how I use the structure, right? Div space ID equals name in quotations. So add an ID attribute with the value of habitat to the opening div tag that has habitat heading, H2 heading as a child, that's this one. So do ID. Perfect. And add an ID attribute with the value media. And this one I'll just type it out, just so you can see me type it out again. So ID equals media. Perfect. Because I've done this a bunch of times, I've done this course so many times, forgive me if I skip things or I rush. I'm going to try to do it slowly. So displaying text. If you want to display text in HTML, you can use a paragraph or a span. Paragraph, P, contains a block of plain text. Span contains short pieces of text or other HTML. They are used to separate small pieces of content that are on the same line as other content. Take a look at each of these elements in action below. So there's the P, paragraph tag, there's the content, and then span is only covering self-driving cars here. In the example above, there are two different div tags. The second div also contains a P with a span, self-driving cars close span. This span element separates self-driving cars from the rest of the text in the paragraph. It's best to use a span element when you want to target a specific piece of content that is inline or on the same line as other text. If you want to divide your content into blocks, it's better to use div. Okay, so if you want to change it but you still want it to be in the same paragraph as other things, span works well. If you want it to be separated in its own paragraph, they're suggesting div. Okay, so below the H2 element that says about brown bears, add P opening and closing tags, and inside of the tags put the following text. Okay, remember to always add 2 spaces of indentation when you nest elements inside of div for better readability. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this, and so below the H element that says brown bears, we're going to go here, we're going to add our P opening and our P closing, and then I'm going to paste that paragraph, and I'm going to keep the indentation here because the H2, the heading 2, and the P are siblings here. They're both under the div tag, this div tag, so they can be on the same line. Perfect. Okay. So below the H3 element that says features, add a paragraph with the following text. Okay, so we'll copy the text, and then H3 features, that's this one here. We're going to add a paragraph, we're going to close the paragraph, and then I'm going to paste that. Awesome. You can see it popping up on this side here. Don't know if you noticed that. Okay, so under the H3 element that says countries with small brown bear populations, that's right here, add a paragraph with the following text. So we're going to take this, open paragraph, close paragraph, paste. Next, perfect. Okay, styling text. You can also style text using HTML tags. The M tag emphasizes text, while the strong tag highlights important text. When I first started using HTML, these were M was I for italic, and strong was B for bold. Later, when you begin to style websites, you will decide how you want browsers to display content within the M and strong tags. Browsers, however, have built-in style sheets that will generally style these tags in the following way. The M tag will generally render as italic emphasis, and the strong will generally render as bold emphasis. Awesome. Okay, so in the example, the strong and M tags are used to emphasize the text to produce the following results. So this code here, this is what it will display as. You can see the strong tags around the Nile River made it bold, and the M tags around the longest made it italicized. As we can see, the Nile River is bolded and longest is in italics. Okay, the first paragraph that starts the brown bear, emphasize Ursus arctos with the emphasis tag. Okay, so that's this one. So we're going to do M, and perfect. Okay, so in the paragraph under about brown bears, make the words least concern strong using the strong tag. Okay, least concern. So strong. Perfect. Okay, line breaks. The spacing between code in an HTML file doesn't affect the positioning of elements in the browser. If you're interested in modifying the spacing in the browser, you can use HTML's line break element, BR. Break. The line break element is unique because it is only composed of a starting tag. You can use it anywhere within your HTML code, and a line break will be shown in the browser. So the code in the example above, where the breaks are there and there, will result in an output that looks like the following. There's a break there and a break there. Okay, so add 2 line breaks after the sentence that ends with least concern. That's this sentence here. So we'll add 2 line breaks. So you can see I broke it up here. Unordered lists. In addition to organizing text in paragraph form, you can also display content in an easy-to-read list. In HTML, you can use an unordered list tag, UL, to create a list of items in no particular order. An unordered list outlines individual list items with a bullet point. The UL element should not hold raw text and won't automatically format raw text into an unordered list of items. Individual list items must be added to the unordered list using the LI tag. The LI or list item tag is used to describe an item in list. So you just put UL, it won't automatically make a list. You need to make each thing on your list, you're going to have to surround it in an opening and closing LI tag, probably for a list item. In the example above, the list was created using the UL tag and all the individual list items were added using LI tag. The output will look like this. Okay, so under this heading that says species, create an unordered list. Do not add any list items to the list just yet. Okay, so under species, we're going to create an unordered list. So I'm going to do an open UL, and then I'm going to close the UL, an unordered list. Add the following list items to the unordered list. Okay, so we're going to copy U, and then do LI. I'm going to leave that indentation that it did because right here, because it's, you know, easier to read. So Colaris, open list item tag, close list item tag, Horribilis. Nelsani, which happens to be extinct. Oh, I made a mistake here. I forgot to close this tag. Let's fix that. It says that it's right, but let's fix it anyways. Perfect, much better. Okay, next. Ordered lists. Ordered lists, OL, are like unordered lists, except that each list item is numbered. They are useful when you need to list different steps in a process or rank items first to last. You can create an ordered list with the OL tag and then add individual list items to the list using LI tags. Perfect. So it will look like this with these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So under the heading that says countries with large brown bear populations, add an ordered list. So we'll go down here. Countries with large brown bear populations is right here. So we're going to add an ordered list. Okay. So add the following list items to the ordered list. Russia, make sure to close it this time. United States, and then Canada. And there we are. Perfect. Okay, next. Images. All of the elements you've learned about so far, heading, paragraphs, lists, and spans, share one thing in common. They're composed entirely of text. What if you want to add content to your web page that isn't composed of text like images? The image tag allows you to add an image to a web page. Most elements require both an opening and closing tag, but the image tag is a self-closing tag. Note that the end of the image tag has a /. Self-closing tags may include or omit the final slash, both are render properties. So it is a self-closing tag, you can see, and there's a little slash there. Okay, the image tag has a required attribute called src. The src attribute must be set to the image's source, or the location of the image. In this case, the value of source must be the uniform resource locator, URL, of the image. A URL is the web address or local address of where a file is stored. Got it. Okay, so under the media h2 tag, let's go down to media, add an image. Use the following URL as the source for the image. Okay, so image source, we're going to add that in there and then close it. Ooh, there's a new bear image. Yeehaw. Next. Image alts. Part of being an exceptional web developer is making your site accessible to users of all backgrounds. In order to make the web more inclusive, we need to consider what happens when assistive technologies such as screen readers come across image tags. The alt attribute means alternative text brings meaning to the images on our sites. The alt attribute can be added to the image tag just like the source attribute. The value of alt should be the description of the image. Awesome. The alt attribute also serves the following purposes. If an image fails to load on a web page, a user can mouse over the area originally intended for the image and read a brief description of the image. This is made possible by the description you provide in the alt attribute. Awesome. Visually impaired users often browse the web with the aid of screen reading software. When you include the alt attribute, the screen reading software can read the image's description out loud to the visually impaired user. Awesome. The alt attribute also plays a role in search engine optimization, SEO, because search engines cannot see the images on websites as they crawl the internet. Having descriptive alt attributes can improve the ranking of your site. Awesome. If the image on the web page is not one that conveys any meaningful information to the user, visually impaired or otherwise, the alt attribute should be left empty. So add the alt attribute to the image and include a description. What's the image? So it is let's go down to our image, and we're gonna add an alt. Okay, so alt, what's happening? A large brown bear gazes at the camera. Perfect. Can we see it if we scroll over? No, it's not going to show it, but generally what would happen is if you put your mouse over this, that would pop up that text. Awesome, okay. In addition to images, HTML also supports displaying videos. Like the image tag, the video tag requires a source attribute with a link to the video source. Unlike the image tag, however, the video element requires an opening and a closing tag. So in this example, the video source is myvideo.mp4. The source can be a video file that is hosted alongside your web page or a URL that points to a video file hosted on another web page. After the source attribute, the width and height attributes are used to set the size of the video displayed in the browser. The controls attribute instructs the browser to include basic video controls: pause, play, and skip. The text "video not supported" between the opening and closing video tags will only be displayed if the browser is unable to load the video. Under the image, add the following video URL, and wrap it in the video tags. Okay, so under the image, we're going to do video, open video, close video, and then they said there was the source, right? Yeah. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Okay, so define the width of the video as 320 and the height as 240, and make sure to include the controls attribute. Where did they put the controls one? They just dropped in there. Okay, so the width of our video here is 320, and then the height of our video is 240, and then we'll just drop controls there. I'll take a look. Oh yeah, the controls are there now. Awesome. Okay, in between the opening and closing video tags, add the phrase "video not supported," which will be displayed if the browser is unable to load your video. Okay, so in between the opening and closing, so we'll put it right here. Video not supported. In between the opening and the closing. Perfect. All right. Review. Oh man, we're done. Okay, congratulations on completing the first lesson of HTML. You're well on your way to becoming a skilled web developer. Let's review what you've learned so far. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language and is used to create the structure and content of a web page. Most HTML elements contain opening and closing tags with raw text or other HTML tags between them. HTML elements can be nested inside other elements. The enclosed element is the child of the enclosing parent element. That's, H1 is the child of body here. Any visible content should be placed within the opening and closing body tags. Headings and subheadings, H1 to H6 tags, are used to enlarge text. P, span, and div tags specify text or blocks. The M and strong tags are used to emphasize text. Line breaks are created with the BR tag. Ordered lists OL are numbered and unordered lists UL are bulleted, and don't forget each list item has to be enclosed in LI tags. Images and videos can be added by linking it to an existing source. Awesome. In the next lesson, we'll take the content that you've added to this website and transform it into an HTML document that's ready to go on the web. Woo! Okay, so we're going to do that for our next lesson. Awesome. Okay, so that was a great lesson. We did really good. We got through it pretty quickly. Not everything's always going to be this fast, but and if you didn't get through it as quickly as I did, that's cool too. I've done this a couple of times. I'm sure there's going to be exercises where you're going to get it so quick, and I'm going to be on here and the video struggling. You're just going to be like, CL, it's okay, it's so easy. But that's for the future. So, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me for this, our first HTML lesson. Bye.